sometimes I wish we would record the conversation we just had before we go live because we already got into some juicy stuff. You guys, if you're tuning in for your first time, clearly you're attracted to happiness. And so then what's that about? Perhaps you're already happy and you're wanting to grow that, expand it, share it more. Perhaps you realize maybe you're not happy. Maybe you were, now you're not. Maybe you've never been happy. Maybe when you popped out though, you probably were. Natural state, you certainly were happy. So the intention, I just have this knowing that we get to be happy, and there's a lot of craziness happening in the world right now. And maybe there's always been craziness happening in the world. So maybe this time's no different than any other. I don't know. That's been a question on my mind recently. But I think if we just could turn the dial up, on happiness, more people being happy, more people claiming their happiness, people realizing that, man, you get to make decisions that would actually align with happiness. And everything that you do want, you're going to actually call that in faster, easier, in a more simple way, through happiness. So I'm psyched for today's conversation with Sherry Snyder. I could do an 8-minute introduction, and I'm not. I'm going to introduce Sherry as a relationship expert, and then whatever else wants to be uncovered from there can. So Sherry, welcome.
Thank you, Shawn. Great to be here.
Excited for this conversation. So yeah, why don't I put the mic on you, have you introduce yourself and share, some of your story. You have an incredible story. And I think that that's going to probably kick off what we're going to get into today, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I really, when I was preparing for this interview, the note I wrote at the top of my page is happiness is an inside job.
Yeah.
And once I recognize that, I don't have, if I give the job of happiness, if I designate it to anything or anyone else, then I am powerless to choose happy and whenever I want to be happy. And so, for example, I've entered the dating world. My husband passed away at age, I was a 48-year-old widow, unexpected, completely undesired. Neither of us wanted the relationship to end. And we'd been married almost 26 years. It was a medical tragedy that we lost a 57-day medical battle. And so your whole world, all of your dreams and hopes, everything you've created and worked for in your entire lifetime, because we were married in our early 20s, is gone. And I really felt like I would have rather had half of my body cut off, because when the two become one and one is gone, half of you is missing. And so I got to rebuild my life. And on that journey, I recognized that in that almost 26-year beautiful relationship of unconditional love and creating a beautiful family with 3 children, at times I certainly gave the job of happiness to my husband. And it's not fair in a relationship to give that away. And when he was gone, I realized that happiness needs to be an inside job, that no matter what circumstance life brings you, the worst tragedy I could have ever imagined happened. And now I get to pick up the pieces. And so I determined from that day forward, I would always let happiness be an inside job. So in the world of dating, online dating, and all that fun and joy that I entered, I would have men say to me, "Oh, I just want to make you happy," and I would be like, "Well, that's my job, and I'm never going to give it away again." However, so I'm not looking for someone to make me happy. I said, however, I'm looking for the one who can multiply my happiness. So that means a person who is happy coming together with a person who is also happy, and together creating more happiness. And when two people understand that is their own job and they don't give that power, that responsibility, if you will, to anyone else, then you can actually maintain happiness regardless of circumstances. Because obviously, even though I have met and fallen in love with my forever partner now, there's no guarantee that this partner won't die. I don't believe he will leave because we're fully committed, but there are no guarantees of the future. And so in order to recognize that you have the power, you have to say, this is my job. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, but I'm not giving this job away ever again. So that was kind of the initial thoughts that I had as I was preparing for this. And then the conversation you and I were having, at some point we can get into two words that people in our society and culture today might think negative, but you and I think differently, that they're actually positive words.
Yes, absolutely. God, so where do we go from here? I mean, you just shared so much already. Your husband passed 26 years too, and it's even hard. My mind doesn't understand what you've been through. I don't think it can understand, right? Because you've walked it and I haven't walked it. So I can see from the outside the journey that you've been through, that you've been on, that you are on. My experience of you is powerful, is happy. And so then one has to ask, like, well, what's that journey that you went through when you lost your husband, your first husband? And, how did you face it? What did you go through? And I like what you had to say about that. It wasn't fair. You gave that job to your husband, which is not something that anyone else can do for you. So you've learned so much clearly about happiness, and one of the two words, responsibility, like being responsible for your own happiness. Can you share? I asked probably 82 questions there, but whatever you heard, can you share a little bit about that process that you've been through in the past few years?
Yeah, sure. um Entering the widowhood world and surrounding myself with a whole bunch of other widows that were in similar situation as myself all across the US. I really got inside of their heads. I got to know their stories. I got to understand and share in the joys and the sorrows of the journey. And many of these widows were my best teachers. I would get into these Facebook groups, I would read their posts, and more often than not, it was full of depression, sorrow, grief, stuck, very, very stuck. Some people had been stuck for more than a decade, still
Wow.
in this, I'm going to use the V word, victim mode of, this isn't fair. This shouldn't have happened to me. I can never be happy again. There will never be another, experience of love. It's over. And they would say things like, the best is over. And I would think to myself,
Wow.
my best teachers, I would think to myself, if the best is over, why am I still here? Certainly, the best is yet to come. It's sad. It's tragic. It's not what I wanted. It's the future I wanted with my beloved and my husband can no longer be. It's out of my control. It's out of my control. And I chose to believe that I was left here for a purpose, that I was left behind. And I like to say that he got to go and I had to stay. So I want to honor my beloved, and I think of my life as writing a story here that when I get on the other side, I can't wait to tell my beloved, hey, baby, listen to this. And this is the adventure I created. And this is the positive energy I put into the world. And this is the impact that we had together because of your love for me, that I'm carrying on your legacy and honoring your name. So to me, I would wake up and yes, I experienced sadness, grief, all of those things. And if you remind me, I'll talk about how I deal with that and
Yeah.
cup of tea story that I told you before. But I get to choose this day. Am I going to pull the covers over my head and stay in bed? Woe is me, pity me, this is so unfair. Or, and I just don't understand how a widow or widower could think that that is how their spouse, their beloved, would want them to live the rest of their life. in sadness and grief and staying in bed and not affecting the world around them with love and joy and peace. So I choose to get out of bed. I might not feel like it, don't want to, get dressed, get ready, go out into the world and spread joy and create this beautiful story of legacy for my beloved. And so it really became those widows that became my teacher of what I could not imagine a decade from now still wallowing in sorrow
Mhm.
when I feel like this life is a gift. And why was I left here? What purpose is that? It's a bigger, much bigger purpose, and it certainly isn't going to be accomplished by me staying in bed and depressed and in sorrow and grief. Now, and here's where I'll go into the cup of tea. So important that people recognize, yes, happiness is an inside job, and part of true happiness, authentic, lasting happiness, does not mean I'm pasting a smile on and showing the world a fake imposter syndrome. And you do that if you deny the true feelings of sadness and sorrow.
Yeah.
And so when you go deep, I went into the what I feel like the pits and the depths of hell, hell on earth, to walk through that fire and something that no one ever wants to be a part of, that widow club and that W word. But as I acknowledge and appreciate and honor the negative emotions, the fear, the grief, the guilt, the sorrow, the sadness, as I honor those, not deny them, not push them down and say they don't exist, I'm just going to be happy. Bull crap.
Hmm.
That is never going to be a lasting solution. And so
No.
I honor the dark places. And so how I like to say it is I say, when sadness and grief come knocking on my door, I answer it. I say, thank you for coming. I let sadness and grief come in. I sit them on the couch. I fix them a cup of tea. We have a chat. And I feel all of that horrible, negative, toxic darkness. It's just a dark cloud that it permeates your entire being. And
Mm.
instead of trying to escape it because it's so uncomfortable, I sit in it. I sit in that rocking chair and I thank them, because that grief and that sorrow represents a deep, deep love. And if I did not have
Mm.
that experience of true, romantic, deep, unconditional love with my husband, then the grief and the sorrow wouldn't really be there. Right. So I
Oh.
welcome it. I appreciate the negative emotions. And then as soon as it's appropriate, I say, thank you for coming. I show them to the door. And as soon as they leave, I invite gratitude in, I invite joy in. And oftentimes, to counter that negativity, I sit there and I think of a positive memory that I had this experience with my husband, and recognize that how blessed I was to know true love, when many people walk through this life and enter the grave never ever feeling loved and cherished, not knowing that experience. So I recognize that it is really better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And so I'll pull some positive memory, some funny thing my husband would say, or whatever, and I'll sit in that gratitude until I can transfer. It's like you have this graph of emotion and there's a line right here, and they've measured the frequency at 200 is neutral. Anything above 200 would be your peace, your joy, your love, all the positive things that you want to experience, gratitude. And anything below 200, the fear, the guilt, the anger, the depression, the sadness. Those are not, it's not that we want to deny those or call them bad. We just know that we don't want to stay stuck there. So I
Mhm.
find gratitude has kind of been the bridge to get me from out of the fear and the negativity into a higher level of emotion. And once I reach that, then I keep feeding that the rest of the day. But then again, another wave of grief can hit me out of nowhere. And I don't just sit there and go, I'll deal with that later. And I think that's a big thing, that a mistake that widows or someone who's grieving makes, which is, I can't think about that right now. I'm at work. I got to get the kids up, to school and back, and from all the events. And when they now have the pressures of two spouses, two parents doing everything, then they can tend to be like, I can't afford to think the negative thoughts or to go to the dark places, because we get scared. I was scared that once I got there, I would never pull myself out. I would never be able to pull
Yeah.
myself. So that's why I say that many of those widows were my very best teachers, because I said, hell no, I am not going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road still wasting away this life that is a gift because of sorrow, grief, and negative emotion. That to me would not honor my beloved in any way, shape, or form. So that's been my journey to recover happiness and then maintain it in a very authentic, lasting way, that I think it is duplicatable for anyone and everyone, whether you've experienced loss of a spouse or not. All of us have experienced loss to some degree, and all of those losses create grief. And grief is a welcome emotion, but you don't want to stay there and live there. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, powerful. Isn't it quite the paradox that you can be so grieving and sorrow, sad, and then also at the same time so grateful for the love that you created? It's like, what a paradox. Like if there's a definition or display of paradox like that, that's it right there. Because it's just both. It's all of it. And I think about whole being whole, where we are all of that. That all of that is part of life. Like as people call it, you said it. I don't necessarily consider emotions to be negative or positive, but I get the spectrum of emotions. I think you're referring to like Hawkins' work, perhaps, or there's others that have measured the frequencies, and I can see how it could be negative, but it's like it is an emotion. It's a lower density, lower vibration emotion, higher density, higher vibration emotion, and that's kind of it. But we can't pretend that that guilt, grief, sorrow, sadness, anger, whatever it may be, like that's not part of the human experience, because it is part of the human experience. And this whole idea around I'll deal with it later, I get that. I hear that from clients often. I've certainly experienced that myself. I know I don't mean to compare this at all, but I remember when my dog passed away, my little girl, Athena, I got her when she was 8 weeks old. I had her till she was 15, and then she passed away. I had to put her down.
It's a
And
family member.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember driving to business meetings. I was in a business networking group when I was in San Diego. She had just passed. I was the president of this group, so I couldn't just go in and hide. I had to go in. I got to go in and show up. There, I was like, man, actually, I think about this, responsibility in the context of like having responsibilities, not in the way that we're going to talk about it, but in the context of having a responsibility, like having responsibilities in your life or commitments in your life, I think can be a blessing. And because it gives you a mechanism to pull yourself out and show up and not fall into like I need to bury myself from the world. And then of course the trap in that is, well, I'm going to go bury myself in responsibility and not face what needs to be faced.
Yeah.
And the way I'm listening to you talk about it, I think you must have this beautiful way to, I don't know, hold an intention to show up to your life, and also the state you were going through if sorrow or grief or sadness crept in, because it would be so easy to say it's not convenient. I got to show up for my kids, or I have to show up for this or that, and then bury it. And I think the thing is, like, it's never convenient. It's never convenient. You could be sitting on your couch by yourself, and if you're used to stuffing your emotions, you're not going to want to deal with the emotions. It's not convenient. You could be watching a great movie and then it's like your motion comes up and it's like, it's not convenient because I'm watching this great movie. So what can you share a little bit about, I have a lot of questions for you. So let's see. But one, I'll give you one. How did you manage and lead yourself through those times that the sadness, grief, sorrow came up and when it wasn't convenient? You had to show up for your kids, or you had to show up for work, or you had to show up for whatever, and suddenly you're flooded with emotion. How did you navigate that?
Well, I really embraced the vulnerability piece and realized the sooner I could embrace the grief and the emotions, then the sooner it could come up and out, and I could step back into a place of peace. So it was, people would be like, "Oh, you're so brave and you're so strong." And I would just think to myself, I thought of this example. I was 22 years old, we were about to have our first child. And like, like many people in our field, we understood the dangers of the medical thinking, the medical society way of doing things. And so I had a distrust of the medical society, and as a health and wellness coach at the time, and very, very focused on nutritional healing and letting the body heal itself, I had this fear of going into the hospital and having a baby, feeling like, what will they do to my baby that I'm not in control of, that I can't choose how natural I want to have this baby, and how I want this baby to be treated with natural things when it comes out. And so I chose to have a midwife and chose to have our first baby at home. And mind you, this is 20, almost 27 years ago. And so
Yeah.
people were coming to me saying, "Sherry, you're so brave, you're so strong." And they'd be like, "I'd be so scared to have the baby at home." And I would literally look at them, and sometimes I would say this out loud, but oftentimes I would just think it and be like, "I'm more scared to go into the hospital and have this
Yeah.
baby than to have this baby at home."
Yeah.
So oftentimes when people say you're so strong, you're so brave as a widow, that you pulled yourself out of just surviving and into actually thriving again. And I think to myself, it's that the teachers and the lessons in the moment of a fear of, if I stay on the path of this grief and constant depression, I could be like some of these people, widows, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. And that was not an option, because it's not even living. It's not a quality life, in my opinion. Um, and it was just not an option, because I know I'm here for a purpose, and it's to help other people. And I'm not going to be able to help anyone till I help myself. So really, it was kind of this reverse psychology of using fear to my benefit to motivate
Yeah.
me to say, "Sherry, that's not an option. You know that wouldn't honor your beloved." And that's one of my major motivators for everything I do, every decision I make, is knowing one day I'll be reunited with him, and when I see him face to face, I want to tell him amazing adventures and stories that I did on this side while he was doing amazing adventures on that side. And so I just kind of used that for my benefit. And so does that answer that question a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the fear, like you got, what a blessing that you found these groups. You know, it's funny, not funny, excuse me, I don't mean it funny. One of the thoughts I had when you told me the first time that you found like a widow group, I thought, oh shit, uh-oh. I don't know if that could be supportive or not. And certainly for some, it can be supportive. And then for others, that can become an identity.
Yeah.
And in a place to stay, a holding place, a comfortable place now, safe in this new identity of I am whatever you want to say, I am a widow. So it seems like for you, like you just knew pretty quickly. You saw like what was possible, because it is possible. to live the whole rest of your life with this false belief that the best is over and I'm going to be sad forever. I'm ruined. I'm damaged. Half of me is gone. And literally to think like, if half of you is gone, I know that was the sense, that feeling that you had in the beginning. And then to the fear though, that's a deep fear. Like that's a harsh reality to think, wow, I could live like that. I could live and think I'm broken for the rest of my life. I can live and think I'm only half of myself for the rest of my life. And that was enough for you to then recognize that you had a choice to pull yourself through this, or if not, stay in this place and then become a walking, talking, victim, if you will, for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Was there, when you're going through this heal, let's say call it a healing process, but if you have a different word for it, we could use that too. But you're going through this healing process, and certainly you had a lot of people around you, from this widows group to, your family, your kids, friends, probably clients. And so like, I'm sure I'd have to guess, but tell me if I'm wrong, like I'm sure you had a lot of input from people as you were going through this. And I'm sure many people had their own projection of what you should do or what would help you or whatever. Could you kind of paint a picture? I'm totally guessing this, but what I'm guessing is there was some advice you got and recommendations you got that was not helpful at all. And then there was other advice and recommendation that you got that was helpful. Perhaps, people projecting their own fears and such don't give great advice. I'm not a fan of advice anyway, unless it's your CPA or an attorney, but let's just, for lack of a better word, advice. Can you, was that true at all? Was there two channels of this is useful, this is not useful?
Yeah, I mean, I can share in my own experience, there were definitely some on the side that you don't really want to follow. But really, I began to pay close attention to what our culture and our society thinks around grief and then projects and teaches around grief that I call myths, the grief myths. They're lies that need to be busted to get to the truth. And if you believe what you've been taught, all the things that I had been taught around grief and death, and especially as a surviving spouse, that I had to bust through the myths. So I'm certainly I had some bad advice uh, given, but I think what might be more beneficial to other people is just recognizing as a whole, the whole culture and society, what people say or what you've been taught. I began to question every single thing around grief. And I set myself on a journey to get to dig in and find what was true behind it. What was the actual truth? I'm not going to believe anything anyone else says. I'm not going to believe any advice anyone gives me. But in my heart, I need to settle how my perspective and my beliefs around grief and sorrow and sadness really are. And so, for example, in the 1800s, it was common. I, as a widow, would have been required to wear black for at least a year. I would not be allowed to be in society dancing, let's say at a ball. That would be taboo. And yet, what would be in the widow's best interest? Moving her body, dancing, leaning into joy and happiness, not wearing black. The color black for me brings my energy down. I know that for a fact. And so I just feel like so much of what is expected or taught is actually harming us. And so I took a very deep look at what are my core beliefs around grief. I would read a lot of books and I would figure out what I liked and what I didn't like about teachings about grief and created my own stories about my own experience that I could embrace as this is my truth. You can choose however you want to dissect your story and make your story mean, but I'm choosing my path and my way because happiness is an inside job. And so it's a tool that I learned and taught myself. And later there's a name I understand for it, which is fact meaning. The facts are almost 26-year marriage. Neither of us wanted it to end. We were happily married, had great plans for our future, what we wanted to do together, and dreams and everything. And I could make that mean that my life is over, that the best is over, that there's not possibly another happily ever after fairy tale that I could create as a 48-year-old widow looking at the future saying, I could be here 50 more years, 40, 50 years, maybe even more, the way people are living longer as time goes on. And so I'm supposed to believe that the best is over, that there's nothing else great that I could possibly experience while I'm stuck here on this planet until I get to the other side. No,
Stuck
I
here.
have to believe that. Yeah, I do. I feel like I'm stuck here and it's a short time. And what I do matters on this side. And like I said, I'm writing a story to tell my beloved on the other side. And that is what I live for every day. Choices I make to honor him and his legacy, to know, for me to know that I'm making him proud. And so fact meaning, I get to choose the meaning. The facts are, it sucks. It totally sucks. It was the darkest, most horrible time of my life. As a widow, I didn't sleep at night. I'm used to someone in my bed with me. Now I have this lonely, cold bed. I didn't want it this way, and I'm stuck here. I'm stuck in this life, this body, and stuck on this planet for such a time as this. So what do I want to make of it? And so I began to rewrite that story and say, no, the best is yet to come. And people might think like some of the widows might have these conversations and be like, well, I couldn't imagine anything better than what I experienced with my first husband. So I wouldn't possibly want to engage in a new relationship because I'm sure I would be completely disappointed. Fact meaning, I took that and I said, why would I ever want to create something the same as what I had? Why wouldn't I take all those beautiful life lessons and experiences and create something better and something different? We are humans that can evolve into something greater and better every single day if we choose to. And why would I not choose to, since I'm stuck here?
100%.
Yeah, I took that fact meaning and I was like, no, the best is yet to be. It took an enormous amount of faith to actually, I remember I did some healing time going to Florida a couple times over the 2 years and visit my best friend and family and such in Florida. I'd get by the ocean. And I remember walking into my best friend's guest room for the first time. And I think he had been gone 2 months. And I saw a picture on her wall. It said, the best is yet to be. And I was like, I can't believe that. That sounds nice, but it's just a plaque on a wall. It's not the best to be for me. And I took a picture of it and I started challenging myself to embrace that. Why not? Why not? Why does the best have to be over? Why can't the best be coming in the future? And that's not a dishonoring thing to my husband. What we had was beautiful. But if he saw that I was just content to recreate it or just settle, well, that wouldn't honor him. He would want me to take all the lessons that we learned and make something even greater and better. And in that, the circumstances, like you were mentioning, either it was our pre-talk or this talk, the circumstances around us are dark. That's the facts. It doesn't matter if you've lost your beloved or you've lost your dog or you haven't lost anyone. The circumstances around us are sucky. They're dark. They don't feel
Like
good.
what? Like what? Like in general, you mean, or for
Just
you as you were going through that?
whoever lives on the planet today, I don't care who you are or where you are, it feels dark. It feels like there are circumstances against us. None of us wanted the pandemic, and many of us lost far more than we ever should have in that, and that sucks. And yet here we are, we get to choose if we're going to be happy or not. And it's completely our choice. And that's where, if we are circumstance driven, I could look around and be like, this sucks. Why am I even here? I can't wait to get out of here. And maybe I should just end my life because it'll be better on the other side. Well, I get to choose. And if I can focus on joy and peace and love and this inside job of happiness, and like we were mentioning earlier, there were like the two words that we don't like in our society of responsible, and we can talk about that a little bit, and then a
Yeah.
word called discipline. And
Mm,
so when someone challenged me with this idea that joy or happiness is not only an inside job, it's actually a discipline.
mm,
And it's not a bad thing, because as I choose responsible over victim, that means I choose 100% power over my circumstances, that even if the worst thing possible happens, which it did happen, it doesn't have to rob me of my happiness and my joy forever. I get to choose. And so that word discipline of joy is a positive thing, because if it's a discipline, just like exercising and working out your muscles, going for a run, I kind of think of discipline like in that physical arena of exercising and eating healthy and saying no to the sweets and yes to the fruits and things like that. And people would look at, oh, that's a restriction. Oh, that's a infringement on my freedom and my enjoyment. Well,
sure.
no, because if I do give up the sweets and I do exercise more, I'm going to have a better quality of life every single day. I'm going to feel better and I'm going to have the energy to live longer. And so it's that discipline in the moment that never feels good. It never feels good, but it reaps a long benefit. And so you get to choose. And one of my favorite quotes is, every choice has prices and benefits. And
Yeah.
so, what is the price? What's the benefit? Well, when it comes to discipline of joy, if I choose out of the discipline of joy and I choose into sadness, what kind of a quality of life do I experience on a day-to-day basis? What kind of relationships come out of me choosing sadness, which is still kind of a discipline because I'm repeating it every single day and choosing
Yeah.
into it. I just don't like the price and the prices that come out of it. And it's just a
Yeah.
choice we all get to make. Choose
It's
happiness.
just scary. Sorry to
What,
interrupt you.
don't know what's scary.
Well, it's a scary thought to think about as a discipline choosing the sadness because it doesn't take long before that pathway is carved into your neural network and suddenly it's a habit. Now you're not even consciously choosing it anymore. Now there becomes a point where you're operating off of total autopilot. And if you stay there for too long of I'm not going to deal with it right now, or this new identity starts to form of I'm sad, or the best is over, or how could I ever find some whatever, before it doesn't take long, right? And then now it's an operating system. And now on autopilot, you're operating from this identity of a sad person unconsciously. And you're unconsciously going to choose to walk through your day in a way that reinforces that identity of a sad person. That's what's scary to me. That's what's scary.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. The fear I had of being like that
Yeah.
motivated me in ways that I just hadn't been motivated like that before, to choose into discipline of joy. Like people would say, you're so brave. I'm like, it was survival mode. It was either I lean hard into the joy and the peace and the love and the happiness, or I'm going to be stuck in this miserable place. And since I'm here, I might as well make the best of it. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. The fear of having that identity, and now as you're saying, being on autopilot, that means your decisions are being made for you by something other than your true identity. because I
Yeah.
agree with you, and I don't know if this was said in on camera or pre-talk, but I agree with
Yeah.
you. We're born happy. We're born in a
Yeah.
state of perfect peace and happiness and joy, enthusiasm, faith, all of those beautiful gifts that we're given, that we can return to that because it is our true identity and our nature. Or we can take on a false identity, become an imposter who
Yeah.
lives in sadness, who lives in fear, who lives in grief. That's not my true identity. But now, if it becomes automatic, like you're saying, every decision made out of this identity and embracing an emotion like sadness is now made by an imposter ruling my life, controlling me because I am playing victim and I didn't want to choose responsible because I don't like the R word and I don't like the D word of discipline.
Yeah. It's the dirty R word and the dirty D word.
Yeah.
You know, I think about discipline. I wrote about this last week to my tribe. Discipline, when you have a when you can reframe, I'm not saying this to you, but I'm saying necessarily more so to the audience, when you can reframe that dirty D word, because people tune out to that word. Like, guys, don't be afraid of that word. It's a great way of being, because one of the things I've discovered about discipline is it actually has made my life more simple. And I'm way more disciplined now than I was really at any point in my life, probably. Like, my discipline has grown, my commitment level has grown. From a production standpoint, I'm producing more than I ever have in my life. The projects that I'm working on right now, right, in my own life and business life, it's more than I've ever done. And if it weren't for discipline, it would be very difficult, because, I'm sure you have practices of some sort, like meditation or working out or whatever. For me, when I meditate regularly, committed, which I do, I don't miss a day with meditation or at least energy work to keep my vibe high. And when I made a commitment to not miss a day of meditation. And when I made that commitment, the discipline actually made my days more simple, because I don't have to go back and choose, am I going to meditate today or not? I already pre-made that choice way back then. Same thing for working out. I haven't missed a workout in 3 years, not one. And I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about it. It's a choice that's already been made. And now the discipline of it is simple. It makes life more simple. And without discipline, you're gonna, my experience anyway, then I waver. It's too easy for me. I can be, when I'm unconscious, indecisive. And so no discipline and letting my unconscious self run the show, fucking life is hard like that. I got to stop and think, am I going to meditate today? You know how long I can think about that? Am I going to meditate? No, I'm going to stay here longer. Am I going to meditate? Am I going to work out? No, I'm going to stay here longer. Am I going to eat healthy? Like, I already pre-decided. It's more simple. So that's just a realization I've had around discipline.
I love that. I'm you're not preaching to the choir. I'm listening to you and going,
Yeah.
oh, this is good, Jerry. You can grow in this area by changing your perspective around discipline, and that it actually gives freedom instead of takes your freedom, is kind of what I'm hearing you
Yes.
say.
Yes.
That is so good. Where I'm at right now, um I I allowed myself to like have 10 or 12 hours of sleep each night, and letting myself heal, but then it kind of got into a really long bad pattern that wasn't serving me. And so just kind of challenged myself recently, about a month ago, to start getting up at 6 a.m. and going through my miracle morning routine. And I'm currently on 40, I think 40 days, or no, it started
Wow.
earlier, almost 30 days of not doing it every single day, but more days than not in a week. And it's like not fun. It's not a fun. I don't like waking up at 6 a.m. when I'm used to getting up at 9. But the freedom that's on the other side makes it worth it. And so I'm just tucking that away of what you shared, saying it's going to get even better, Sherry. Keep leaning in. And then I thought of that thing, like what I resist persists. So here I keep for decades now, keep resisting this early morning routine. I would try it for a while and then drop it and not be faithful. Um, and so when I'm resisting it, it's just going to persist of haunting me and keeping me from the goals, the dreams, the happiness that I say I want. So I might as well just lean into it and surrender to the discipline. So thank you for that.
Yeah. God, and that's a tricky one too, because sometimes you do need to heal, right? Or rest. And so like how do you navigate that? I think probably different for everyone. I like what you said earlier about like reading the grief research and books and whatever, and then listening internally, because I think that's the most important. You don't give your even listen people listening, don't give your power away to me by, you know, misconstruing what I said or saying Shawn said I have to do it this way. It's like, you should probably try it on first and see what you think, because otherwise you're going to be a victim to me or to Sherry for sharing something. That's not going to work either. But I also think like underneath the let's say the miracle morning, then there's an intention. It's not who cares about the miracle morning. And here's what I mean by that. So let me work this all the way through. The miracle morning is a mechanism for you for something, just like working out is a mechanism for something, or even earning more money. Who cares if you earn more money? A lot of people say, I want more money, I want more money. But that doesn't matter. What matters is you got the more money, and how are you going to direct the money? That's what matters. You're going to move toward what you want to move toward. So it's like, I think there's wiggle room in there too for, someone listening. They're like, no, Sherry, I need, whatever. I need my sleep. Can you have the sleep if one day you just need to recover, let's say, but can you recover and then hold the intention on whatever the miracle morning was generating or whatever the meditation was going to generate or whatever? Because I go through like that too. I use a planner, map out my week, map out my day, recap my week. And to be honest with you, Sherry, I haven't used my planner in a month, and I'm very disciplined with my planner. And then this past month, I've had added so much to my plate that I've had to generate a different mechanism to process my stress at the end of the day or the end of the week. I've had to generate a different mechanism to set an intention for the day. I'm not going through the process I would like to go through, but I created a new one, and I haven't wavered on my intention for what I'm creating. So the planner's out right now. It's coming back. I cleared it off with my coach this morning. I was like, I got to clear this off. I got to get back to this. But I'm not off track at all. I haven't wavered, and I'm not going to give my power away to the planner. I'm still on track, right, to what I'm creating. So I just want to say that too, because there are times that we got to find wiggle room somewhere, too.
Great. Have grace for yourself and the different,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was good to give myself that time to heal and sleep is healing. It's just that it then became a pattern and an automatic thing that was no longer serving me. So I had to get out of my comfort zone. I got to get out of my comfort zone and try
Yeah.
something new, and
Yeah.
it feels good, and it's more effective for me right now.
Yeah, that's powerful too. Yeah. Gosh, you shook yourself out of the comfort that wasn't serving you.
Hmm.
Tell me, I want to hear this from you, because we said two words and then we did throw two words out there, but there's a third word that's
No.
opposite of one of those words that we said. Yeah. So responsible, and then opposite responsible is victim. Those two, and people run from that word, both of those words, well, I'm not a victim or whatever. But, you know, can you share what you've discovered around those two, around victim and responsibility? Because they're so powerful when we understand these two.
Yeah. Um, Really, I had a conversation at a coffee shop this morning with a retired professor from A&M in the psychology field, a doctor, and we were discussing a project of bringing um, happiness and mental health and clarity through a project to the world, and we were talking about this idea of victim versus responsible, and it's really just a choice. No one makes me a victim. No one can label me a victim. I get to choose. And so, really, the question is not, do I want to take the label of victim or will I choose into responsibility? It's more like the question is, do I want to give my power away? Like I was talking about with the happiness inside is an inside job, my job. Do I want to give the power away to someone else or something else, that I am a complete victim of circumstance
Mm-hmm.
and have no choice or say in how I get to respond even to what life throws me? And in my case, the tragedy, I didn't get to choose whether he lived or died, but I
Yeah.
do get to choose how I respond to that. And if I want to choose into victim, I become powerless. And I don't want to live there. I don't want to live there. And I want, so if I don't want to live there and I don't like the results of choosing the identity of victim, what's the alternative? How do I take back my power and remain the powerful woman that I am? It doesn't happen without taking responsibility for, not, it's not a, this is what people did to me. This is what circumstances brought me, and it sucks. Um, it's saying, yeah, acknowledging it. Yeah, that sucks. That is not cool. It's not fun. It's not what I would have chosen. However, I do get to choose how I'm going to respond. And in that word response and responsible, it kind of helps break it down, because I think of responsible like, oh, I'm the oldest of four daughters, and growing up, I had all the responsibility to lead them and be a good example and do my chores and blah, blah, blah. That connotation of responsibility is not really exciting or sexy, for sure. But to recognize my response is what will create my reality, and I'm 100% in control of my response. I am not in control of the circumstance around me. I'm not in control of how people might treat me, mistreat me, those things that happen that are not fair. In my life, a lot of unfairness in business partnerships could leave me very bitter and having a negative taste in my mouth towards any other business partnerships in the future. Well, no, I get to choose my response. And so sometimes it's just like you were saying earlier, of this powerful tool that we call reframing or fact meaning, where the facts are this, the story I can create around it, a story that could serve me, is the response I have 100% power over. So I guess hopefully that will help someone in breaking down responsible versus victim. So
Yes, I think we all play victim sometimes. I do still. I've been you know, I first learned victim responsible in 2007. And so whatever years 2024 now was that? That's a lot of years.
15 years,
I
I
still
think.
find myself being victim sometimes, and then, but the thing is, like, I recognize how powerless I am when I am a victim, because like you said, there's the circumstance. It's such a distinction. There is the circumstance, and it's not like you're gonna gaslight yourself or we're gaslighting you. Like, shit did happen, shit did go down, things did go sideways.
Yep.
For the listeners, things went sideways. Yes, they did. Nobody's gaslighting you, telling you that they didn't. Yep, that's what happened. And if you get stuck there, for me, how could they do this to me? How could you do this? I can't believe I lost this, or this happened, or you left me, you know. And if you stay there, you have absolutely no power at all. You're dead in the water. You are stuck. And if you want to be right about what happened, then you can be right about it. And you get to be stuck too. You get to choose that. And I love the distinction that you point that I'm in control of my response. I'm not in control of my circumstance. I'm in control of my response. I'm not in control of the circumstance. I'm in control of my response. It doesn't negate what happened. It just brings you to the moment, present moment, kind of gets you back in the opportunity to get back into a vision of what do I want? And okay, cool. I want this. I want that. I want to feel this way. So how am I going to respond to this? Or I can just blame it all on them. And victim is lazy, you know. I say that talking to myself when I'm a victim, you know. I'm not a victim, but when I choose to be a victim, it's lazy. Sometimes it's just flat out lazy. Victim can even be fun because it lets the lack of responsible version of you that has no responsibilities, no vision, no mission, nothing to do, come out and play. Because I could just blame you all day and I don't have to do shit.
Mhm.
It's easy. It's safe, it's easy, and maybe spend a couple minutes there every once in a while, but living there, now that's not easy. It's a cop out, but it's not easy in the long term to be a victim. And like you said, I can't emphasize enough the power piece, how much power, how little power you have as victim and how much power you have as responsible.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what you said earlier about as you embrace discipline in your lifestyle, you're actually embracing freedom and the simplicity of what you say you want. So that's my cat Fern. So being able
Yeah.
to instead of looking like it's a dirty word, the D word, the discipline word, um, I like that perspective I'm going to take forward from you about this is a good word and this is actually going to get me where I want to be, even though it's unpleasant in the moment. It's better than that living in that default mode where subconsciously my subconscious is making all my decisions for me, and it's not serving me. It's not choosing me and my highest good. And so I have to kind of shake myself up sometimes and say, we're in the default mode and we don't like the discipline, but let's lean into it so that we don't stay stuck and we get to move forward and achieve greater things.
Yeah, funny. We're talking about this. My fiance is on her way out of town right now. Like she's probably waiting for me to finish. She's going to hang with her girl, a girls' weekend. When she used to go out of town, this was early last year. I had this issue because there's something about being with her that like calls me forward in a different way. And when she would go out of town, she travels a lot. She goes out of town. The old version of me that didn't have this discipline figured out yet, I hesitate to say figured out because now I'm going to have a beautiful opportunity to connect back to discipline because I said that. Uh, I used to, the second she'd be gone, I'll be like, quesadillas, pizza, sit on the couch, fuck it, you know? And then by Monday, I'll be so off track. It would be ridiculous. I'd have to go get some coaching from my coach. Like, dude, I'm off track, you know, and I feel really good. She's going out of town, and because I'm on a mission and I know what I'm up to, it doesn't matter that she's going out of town. The old me who wanted to like give my power away, that was even a form of giving my power away, even probably a form of being victim. I hadn't thought about that. She leaves, and now suddenly I'm victim to my circumstance because I can just hang out, put my feet up, and not be seen as lazy or anything like that. It's my little dirty secret where I just be lazy. But no, now I'm committed, I'm disciplined, I have a mission. She's gone, whatever. I got an agenda for this weekend. So
Because you're
anyway,
a
that
powerful
just
man.
what's that?
You're a powerful man.
Thank you. Yes, I
You give
am.
your power away.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherry, this is so grounding talking to you. You're a powerful woman and grounded as well. Real. I appreciate this conversation. And I know someone's listening that I know would benefit from coming into your world. So I want to give you a minute to plug. You're going to offer a gift, and that gift is to you in a sense because you poured yourself into it, but also it's a mechanism for people that want more of you to come into your world and have more of you. So can you share? I'll link it when we send this out, but can you just share what that is?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Last summer, I created an ebook. It's titled The 50 Plus Woman's Guide to Creating a Perfect Romance. And so who do you create a perfect romance with? Yourself. So it's really a guide of how to love yourself and then be able to attract the love of your life, the romance that you seek, whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, whether you're married or not married. It actually applies whether you're 50 or younger than 50. It's a great guide to teach you how to love yourself, because how you love yourself is how you train those around you to love you. So when you say you want more love, it always starts right here with me. And at the end, you're able to purchase a short video, 15-minute video, where I teach then how to attract higher quality men. So
Mm.
obviously geared towards women, the gift is. And yes, it's a gift of myself, and it is really me pouring my heart into blessing the world and making it a better place through loving yourself first.
You mean there are good men out there? Like what?
There
That's
are.
really good men out. Yeah, it's
I
powerful.
had to
You know
sift
what?
through a lot of not so good to get there, but yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful things about that is that they're a reflection of you, and the women I attract reflection of me. And once we get that switch, then here comes the power and the lights turned on that, oh, they're reflecting me. Oh, so I up my vibe and then I see. You know what I love about this is I appreciate you sharing your story and like seriously the work that you've done, when we chatted the first time. I was driving to a workout, and I'm driving through Denver and you're telling me your story and I'm like, holy shit, man. Wow, because the experience versus who you are, like who you become as a result of this work, right? And the commitment, going through the dark nights, the darkness the cloud, and then on the other side of it, like who you're being in the world is so powerful. And then what a powerful demonstration of your work. Not that this is about your work, it's about telling a story, it's about how to take your power back, be authentic and all of that. And then it also demonstrates like, wow, if she could do that, then I could do that. So for somebody sitting at home thinking, wow, I am single, or wow, that speaks to me. You want to attract your dream man, you absolutely can. And now you have a powerful mentor and a guide who's done that through the craziest of circumstance. And what better mentor? So I just want to encourage any ladies sitting at home that speaks to you, go grab it right now and jump in.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. The what you were saying about is really back to what we started with of the two dirty words, victim, responsible. And so just kind of putting that plug in there, and then wanted to share one last thing, and I'll turn it back to
yeah,
you. Also, what I shared with you on that first call when you were on your way to the gym, what I call my contract statement that I have
yeah.
posted all over my house, and what I say to myself every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, that's helped me. Probably one of the tools that's helped me the most to get out of victim and into responsible, to get out of just surviving as a widow into thriving and begin to attract the abundance that I want, an abundance of joy, an abundance of energy, abundance of time, abundance of resources, abundance of relationships. Everything, someone taught me last fall, everything chases joy. And so
Love
to
that.
embrace that discipline of joy, which is the other dirty word we've been talking about today, and bringing
Yeah.
it full circle, for me, my purpose statement helps me to stay in that joyful place. And so I am a worthy, vulnerable, authentic woman. And my purpose is to inspire others by surrendering to love and cherishing every single moment.
Come on. Powerful. I am a worthy, vulnerable, what was the third one?
Authentic.
Authentic. Yes, you are.
Mhm.
I think, okay, I know we are gonna wrap, but let me say this too. When you say that and you say cherish every moment, I go to this is a whole nother conversation. This is a module we do in my program, but I go to cemetery on a regular basis. And sometimes I go at night. There's this huge one in Denver that's creepy, and I go at night because it's not creepy. But um, two things about that is cherishing every moment. I mean, one, because what a gift that I'm here, and what a gift that you are here. And God, you know that as well as anybody knows that. And I forget sometimes. I do. Autopilot is powerful. And that's why I go to cemetery on a regular basis, like once a quarter, roughly, because it's the richest place in the world. It's where all the dreams have gone and died. And it's a powerful reminder to go through a cemetery and read tombstones and read what people write on tombstones and see the layout and the order of tombstones. Like I see sometimes kids, because you can see the date, birth date, death date, and it's like 1982 to 1984. It's like, wow. Or, I see a lot of young men who are military. They'll say like U.S. Marine Corps. They're like 22 years old or something. Or I see a lot of a woman will die. No, excuse me. I don't know if this is true or not. It's just what has my experience has been that men tend to die first. At least the way I've seen, at least through my interpretation and the way I've seen the tombstones, like the man will die. It'll be like Jimmy John died in 1972, and then Mary Sue died in 1982, like another 20 years. I see that a lot. And then sometimes I also see them, Jimmy John died in 1982 and then Mary Sue died in 1983 sometimes. Anyway, it's just a reminder that,
If
man,
it's
we're all headed
reversed,
there.
oh, sorry, yeah. If it's
You go,
reversed,
yeah.
the men don't live as long. If the wife dies first, the men don't
Is
live
that
as
what it is? So the women, wow. So the women will live longer, but the man doesn't typically. That's the stat. I didn't know that. I
and
believe it.
there's a stat 80% of men die married and 80% of women die single.
Wow.
That's
Interesting. I didn't
mhm.
know that either. Yeah. God, we're just weenies, guys. We're just weenies is what it comes down to.
No, they were just made to be completed by a female. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's powerful.
They're beautiful. They they need that. They need that female figure in their life.
Yeah. Well, Sherry, appreciate you. Thanks for coming on and sharing who you are. And for everybody at home, before you move on, if you resonate with that gift that Sherry offered, get focused, go grab it now and jump into it now. Don't just download it and say, I'm going to come back to this. No, you won't. Jump in now because your heart said to jump in now. Right. So take that action. Everybody at home, see you soon. And Sherry, talk to you soon as well. Thank you again for being here.
I appreciate it, everyone. Bye.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.